The clock on the kitchen wall read 2:47 p.m. when Dayron Washington made the decision that would change his life forever. But what happened next shocked everyone who witnessed it, including the man who would fire him just minutes later. Steam rose from the industrial stoves at Meridian, one of Atlanta's most exclusive restaurants, where 24-year-old Dayron had been working as a line cook for 8 months. His black chef's coat was pristine despite the lunch rush chaos, his movements precise as he plated the final orders. Through the kitchen's back window, he could see him again, Marcus, the homeless man who had been sitting outside the restaurant for 3 weeks now. "Chef Washington, table 12 is waiting on that salmon," barked Mr. Simmons, the restaurant manager, his voice cutting through the kitchen noise like a knife through butter. "Yes, sir," Dayron replied, sliding the perfectly prepared dish across the pass. But his eyes kept drifting back to that window, to Marcus huddled against the brick wall with nothing but a torn jacket against the October chill. Dayron had grown up in East Atlanta, where his mother Carla had raised him alone after his father left when he was 7. He knew what it felt like to skip meals, to wonder where the next one would come from. Every time he saw Marcus, he saw himself at age 10, stomach growling while his mom worked double shifts just to keep their lights on. "That's it for lunch service," announced the head chef. 15-minute break, people. This was Dayron's chance. He grabbed a container and quickly filled it with the day's special herb-crusted chicken with roasted vegetables that would have cost a customer $38. His hands moved with practiced efficiency, adding a dinner roll and a bottle of water. Little did he know that this single act of kindness was being watched very carefully. Slipping out the back door, Dayron approached Marcus with careful steps. The older man's weathered face looked up, surprise flickering in his tired eyes. "Hey there," Dayron said softly, extending the container. "I noticed you've been out here a while. Thought you might be hungry." Marcus stared at the food for a long moment before accepting it with trembling hands. You did this for me?" "Everyone deserves a good meal," Dayron replied with a gentle smile. "Take care of yourself, sir." "Wait," Marcus called as Dayron turned to leave. "What's your name, son?" "Dayron. Dayron Washington." Something shifted in Marcus's expression, a flicker of recognition, perhaps, or calculation. "Dayron," he repeated slowly. "I won't forget this kindness. I promise you that." As Dayron headed back toward the kitchen, his chest felt lighter than it had in weeks. He had no way of knowing that Marcus was already reaching for a phone hidden in his jacket pocket, or that the call he was about to make would set extraordinary events in motion. The kitchen door slammed behind Dayron with unusual force. Mr. Simmons stood there, his face flushed red with anger, holding his own phone up like evidence in a courtroom. Well, Simmons sneered. "Chef Washington. Care to explain this?" On the phone screen was a photo Dayron handing the food container to Marcus. One of the servers had captured the moment and immediately sent it to management. "Sir, I can explain dash." "Explain what?" "How you stole $38 worth of food from my restaurant. How you violated every health code by serving a homeless man out of our kitchen." Simmons's voice rose with each word, drawing stares from the entire staff. Dayron's heart pounded. "Mr. Simmons, it was just one meal. The man hasn't eaten in days, and I thought dash." "You thought wrong." Simmons cut him off. "This is a high-end establishment, not a soup kitchen. Our reputation depends on exclusivity, and I can't have employees who think the rules don't apply to them." The kitchen fell silent except for the hum of the refrigeration units. Every eye was on Dayron as he stood there, his dream job hanging by a thread. "I understand your concern, sir, but showing basic human compassion shouldn't be dash. You're fired." The words hit Dayron like a physical blow. "Sir, please. I need this job. I'll pay for the food myself, I'll dash. Security will escort you out. Clean out your locker and never set foot in this restaurant again." Simmons turned on his heel and walked away, leaving Dayron standing alone in the center of the kitchen he'd hoped would launch his culinary career. But the real shock was still coming. As Dayron gathered his knives and personal items from his locker, his hands shaking with disbelief, he had no idea that outside, Marcus was finishing a very important phone call. This decision would change everything, not just for Dayron, but for everyone involved in this incredible story that was only just beginning. 20 minutes later, Dayron walked out of Meridian for the last time, his chef's coat folded under his arm and his dreams seemingly shattered. Behind him, through the window, Marcus watched with eyes that held secrets no one could have imagined. The walk home feels endless. Every step away from the restaurant echoes with Mr. Simmons' harsh words still ringing in Dayron's ears. The autumn air bites through his chef's jacket as he clutches his hastily packed belongings, replaying the moment over and over. He'd simply wanted to help Marcus, the homeless man who'd been quietly sitting outside the restaurant for weeks. Now his dream job is gone. Dayron's small apartment feels even smaller tonight. The acceptance letter from culinary school still hangs on his refrigerator, a reminder of how hard he'd worked to get where he was. The monthly payment slip tucked behind it serves as a stark reminder of his student loans. His mother Carla is folding laundry on the worn couch when he walks in, and one look at his face tells her everything. "Baby, what happened?" she asks, setting down a towel and turning her full attention to him. Dayron slumps into the chair across from her, suddenly feeling exhausted. "I got fired, Mama." "Fired? For what?" "You've been nothing but dedicated to that place. I bought lunch for a homeless man outside the restaurant. Mr. Simmons saw me and said I was giving away company property." The words taste bitter as he speaks them. Carla's expression shifts from concern to something fiercer. "You did the right thing, Dayron. Don't you ever doubt that. That man needed help, and you had the courage to step up when nobody else would. Courage doesn't pay the rent, Mama. Or my student loans." Dayron rubs his temples, feeling the weight of his situation settling in. But what Dayron doesn't know is that across town, Marcus sits under the overpass where he's been staying, pulling out a phone that looks surprisingly expensive for someone in his situation. His fingers move with practiced precision as he dials a number. "It's Marcus," he says when someone picks up. "The test is complete. We found him." The voice on the other end is crisp, professional. "Are you certain? This young man displayed the qualities we're looking for?" "Absolutely." Without hesitation, without expecting anything in return. He risked his job to help someone he believed had nothing. Marcus glances toward the restaurant in the distance. His name is Dayron Washington. 24 years old, culinary school graduate. Works at Bella Vista until today. Worked? His boss fired him on the spot for the act of kindness. Which only confirms what we're looking for. Back in the apartment, Carla reaches over and takes her son's hands. "Baby, you have something special. Not just your cooking, but your heart. That combination is rare, and the right people will recognize it." "The right people already saw it, Mama. They fired me for it." "No, the wrong person saw it and made the wrong choice. But you mark my words, this isn't the end of your story. Sometimes you have to lose something to find something better." Dayron wants to believe her, but right now it feels impossible. "I should start looking for another job tomorrow. Maybe something in a smaller restaurant." "Don't you dare settle," Carla says firmly. "You didn't work this hard just to take whatever scraps someone throws you." Meanwhile, under the overpass, Marcus ends his call and waits. Within minutes, a figure emerges from the shadows, expensive shoes clicking against the concrete. The man is well dressed, carrying a briefcase that seems completely out of place in this setting. "James wants to move quickly on this one," the man says, handing Marcus an envelope. "Everything's arranged." Marcus opens it carefully, revealing an elegant invitation card with an address embossed in gold lettering. "Tomorrow night?" "Tomorrow night." "And Marcus? Good work?" "This one feels different." The man disappears back into the shadows as quickly as he came, leaving Marcus alone with the invitation. He studies it carefully, knowing that this single piece of paper will change everything for the young chef who showed him kindness when he needed it most. But what Marcus doesn't realize is that Mr. Simmons isn't done with Dayron Washington. Back at Bella Vista, the restaurant owner sits in his office, making phone calls to other high-end establishments in the city. "I'm calling as a professional courtesy," he says into the phone. "I had to let someone go today for theft. Dayron Washington. I'd hate for another restaurant to make the same mistake I did in hiring him." The mysterious figure who met with Marcus disappears into the night, but tomorrow will bring revelations that none of them could have anticipated. In his apartment, Dayron stares at the ceiling, unaware that his single act of compassion has set in motion events that will test everything he believes about justice, opportunity, and the power of doing what's right. What none of them know is that by tomorrow evening, everything will change, and the true identity of the homeless man Dayron helped will reshape his entire future in ways he never could have imagined. The truth hit Dayron like a thunderbolt as he stared at the mysterious invitation card in his hands. The elegant black cardstock bore a simple address in downtown Atlanta, along with a golden emblem he'd never seen before, a stylized hand offering food to another. His fingers trembled slightly as he read the message once more: "Your kindness has been noticed. Tomorrow, 3 p.m. Come alone." 2 days had passed since his termination, and the weight of unemployment pressed down on his shoulders like a heavy blanket. He'd spent hours hunched over his laptop, sending out resumes to every restaurant in the city, but the responses were either rejections or deafening silence. The rent was due in 2 weeks, and his savings account displayed a number that made his stomach churn. But something about this invitation felt different. Important. Meanwhile, across the city in a place most people would never suspect, Marcus sat in a pristine office that overlooked the Atlanta skyline. Gone were the tattered clothes and weathered appearance. Instead, he wore a tailored navy suit, his hair neatly groomed, his posture commanding. The transformation was so complete it seemed like magic. The subject passed the preliminary assessment. He spoke into a secure phone line, his voice carrying an authority that would shock anyone who'd seen him on the streets. Dayron Washington demonstrated genuine compassion without expectation of reward or recognition. Even when confronted by his superior, he showed no regret for his actions. The voice on the other end crackled with interest. "In his background check? Clean. Exemplary, actually. Single mother household, worked 3 jobs through culinary school, never missed a payment despite financial struggles." His references describe him as talented, dedicated, and possessing an almost supernatural ability to understand flavors. Marcus paused, glancing at a thick file on his desk. But here's what's remarkable: in every kitchen he's worked, staff morale improved dramatically. He has this gift for bringing people together through food. Interesting. And the financial pressure we've been monitoring? Marcus's expression grew serious. Critical. He's facing eviction soon, which makes this test even more valid. Despite his desperation, he chose kindness over self-preservation. That's exactly the character profile we've been searching for. As Dayron stood outside his apartment building the next afternoon, the invitation felt like it was burning a hole in his pocket. The address led him to one of Atlanta's most exclusive neighborhoods, where massive houses sat behind iron gates like sleeping giants. His beat-up Honda looked hilariously out of place among the pristine sidewalks and manicured lawns. Maybe this is some kind of mistake, he muttered to himself, double-checking the address for the 10th time. But something deep in his gut told him to keep walking. The house at the specified address was unlike anything he'd ever seen up close. A modern mansion that seemed to blend seamlessly with nature, its glass walls reflecting the afternoon sun like mirrors. As he approached the front door, his heart hammered against his ribs. Before he could even ring the doorbell, the door swung open. Standing there was Marcus, but not the Marcus he knew. This man wore expensive clothes, carried himself with confidence, and smiled with the warmth of someone who'd been expecting him. "Hello, Dayron. I'm glad you came." Dayron's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "Marcus? I don't understand. What is this place? How did you?" "My name is James Marshall," the man said gently, stepping aside to invite Dayron in. and I believe we have a lot to discuss about your act of kindness 2 days ago." The interior of the house took Dayron's breath away. Soaring ceilings, artwork that probably cost more than his yearly salary, and a kitchen visible through an archway that looked like something from a celebrity chef's wildest dreams. "I don't understand any of this," Dayron whispered, his mind struggling to process the transformation. "You were homeless. You were hungry. I saw you sleeping under that overpass." James's expression grew serious, filled with a mixture of respect and something that looked almost like admiration. "For the past 6 months, I've been conducting a social experiment. Testing how people respond to those in need when they think no one is watching. You were the first person in all that time who not only helped, but did so despite facing consequences." The revelation hit Dayron like a physical blow. But before he could fully process what James was telling him, his phone buzzed with a text message that made his blood run cold. It was from an unknown number. "I know where you are, Washington. Don't think this little stunt will save your pathetic career. R. Simmons." As Dayron showed James the message, both men realized that their conversation was about to take a very dangerous turn. The sprawling mansion before Dayron takes his breath away. Its Georgian columns and manicured gardens speak of wealth beyond anything he's ever encountered. He clutches the mysterious invitation, his hands trembling slightly as he approaches the ornate front door. "You came," a familiar voice calls from behind him. Dayron spins around to see Marcus emerging from the shadows, but something's different. Gone are the tattered clothes and worn expression. This man stands tall, wearing an expensive suit, his eyes sharp and calculating. The transformation is so complete that Dayron takes a step back. "Marcus? What's going on here?" The man extends his hand with a warm smile. "My name is James Marshall. I apologize for the deception, but it was necessary." Dayron's mind reels. James Marshall? As in Marshall Foundation? He's heard that name whispered in culinary circles. The Marshall Foundation funds restaurants across the country, focusing on social impact and community benefit. "That's right," James confirms, gesturing toward the mansion. "Walk with me, Dayron. We have much to discuss." As they move through the grand foyer, James begins to explain. "For the past 6 months, I've been conducting a special project. Testing the character of young professionals in various industries. Your restaurant was one of several locations I visited." Dayron's anger flares. "You were testing me? Making me believe you were hungry and desperate?" "I was observing," James corrects gently. "And what I saw in you was remarkable. Despite your own struggles, despite the risk to your job, you showed genuine compassion. Not once, but consistently over 3 weeks." They enter a study lined with leather-bound books and awards. James pours 2 glasses of water, handing one to Dayron. "Do you know how many people walked past me during those weeks? Hundreds. Do you know how many offered help without expecting anything in return?" Dayron shakes his head, still processing the revelation. 3. You were one of them." The weight of this information settles over Dayron. All those moments of kindness, the meals he'd purchased with his own money, the conversations he'd shared with who he thought was a struggling homeless man, it had all been orchestrated. But before Dayron can respond, James's phone buzzes urgently. His expression darkens as he reads the message. "We have a problem," James murmurs, moving to the window. "Your former employer, Mr. Simmons, has been making inquiries. He's learned about our meeting. How could he possibly know I'm here?" James's jaw tightens. Money talks, and Mr. Simmons has connections. He's been spreading lies about your character, trying to torpedo any opportunities that might come your way. He called 3 restaurants this morning, warning them not to hire you. Dayron feels his heart sink. Even after firing him, Mr. Simmons won't let him move on. "There's more," James continues grimly. "He's on his way here right now. Apparently, he's convinced that you've somehow manipulated or deceived me into this meeting." The irony isn't lost on Dayron. Here he is, learning that he was the one being tested, while his former boss believes he's the one doing the manipulating. Why would he go to such lengths? Dayron asks, bewildered. Because he's threatened, James explains. Men like Simmons build their power on controlling others. Your act of kindness exposed something he lacks, genuine humanity. And now that he knows you're connected to someone with influence, he's desperate to maintain his narrative about you. Through the study's tall windows, Dayron can see a black sedan pulling up the circular driveway. His stomach clenches as he recognizes Mr. Simmons stepping out, his face twisted with determination. He's here, Dayron whispers. James places a reassuring hand on his shoulder. This is your moment, Dayron. Everything depends on how you handle what's about to happen. The opportunity I want to offer you, the future I see for someone with your character and talent, it all hinges on the next few minutes. What kind of opportunity? Something that could change not just your life, but the lives of countless others. But first, James's voice grows serious as footsteps echo in the foyer. You need to face the man who tried to destroy your dreams. The study door bursts open without warning, and Mr. Simmons storms in, his face flushed with anger and self-righteous indignation. I knew it, he shouts, pointing an accusatory finger at Dayron. I knew you were up to something when you started fraternizing with that homeless man. This whole thing is some kind of con job, isn't it? James steps forward calmly, but Dayron raises his hand, stopping him. This confrontation has been building since the moment he was fired, and now it's time to face it head-on. What happens in the next moments will determine whether his act of kindness leads to redemption or ruin. Mr. Simmons storms into James's elegant study, his face flushed with anger and desperation. You think you can just steal my employee behind my back? He shouts, pointing an accusatory finger at Dayron. This kid violated company policy, gave away food that wasn't his to give. He's unreliable, unprofessional. Enough, James says quietly, his voice carrying the weight of decades of business experience. He stands beside his massive mahogany desk, watching Mr. Simmons with the calm intensity of a man who's seen every type of person imaginable. Mr. Simmons, isn't it? I've heard quite a bit about your management style. Dayron feels his stomach drop. Everything he's worked for, everything James has offered him, seems to be slipping away as his former boss continues his tirade. I'm warning you, Marshall. Don't get involved with this kid. He'll disappoint you just like he disappointed me. But James steps forward, his presence commanding the room. Actually, Mr. Simmons, Dayron did exactly what I was hoping he would do. You see, for the past 6 months, I've been conducting a very specific kind of assessment. I've been looking for someone with not just culinary talent, but genuine character. Someone who would choose compassion over conformity, even when it costs them everything. Mr. Simmons's confident expression begins to falter. What are you talking about? Marcus, the homeless man you fired Dayron for helping, he's been working with me for years. He's a former Marine, a college graduate who volunteers his time to help me identify people with true integrity. Every week, he positions himself outside different establishments, observing how employees and management treat someone they perceive as having nothing to offer them. Dayron's eyes widen as the pieces finally click into place. All those weeks of Marcus quietly observing, their brief conversations, the way Marcus seemed to really listen when Dayron talked about his dreams of opening a community kitchen someday. Your restaurant failed the test spectacularly, James continues, his voice growing firmer. Not only did you forbid acts of basic human kindness, but when your employee chose compassion anyway, you punished him for it. That tells me everything I need to know about your character, Mr. Simmons. The room falls silent except for the ticking of an antique clock. Mr. Simmons looks between James and Dayron, his face cycling through confusion, anger, and finally, a dawning realization that he's been outmaneuvered. But Dayron, James says, turning to the young chef with a warm smile, you passed with flying colors. You saw someone in need, and you acted with kindness without expecting anything in return. That's exactly the kind of person I want leading my new initiative. James walks over to a window that overlooks the circular driveway. I've been planning to open a network of community kitchens across the Southeast. places where talented chefs can serve both high-end clientele and provide meals for those who can't afford them. I need someone to run the flagship location here in Atlanta, someone who understands that food is about nourishing souls, not just bodies. Dayron feels his heart racing. You're offering me the executive chef position? I'm offering you much more than that. I want you to be the director of operations for the entire project. You'll design the menus, train the staff, and help me expand this concept to other cities. It's a chance to build something that matters, something that could change thousands of lives. Mr. Simmons interrupts with a bitter laugh. You're making a huge mistake, Marshall. This kid doesn't have the experience, the education. He has something more valuable than experience, James replies. He has heart. And I'd rather work with someone who leads with compassion than someone who manages with fear. As if on cue, the sound of car engines draws everyone's attention to the window. James smiles mysteriously. Speaking of the project, Dayron, I'd like you to meet some people. They step outside onto the mansion's grand front steps, and Dayron's breath catches in his throat. 6 luxury cars are pulling into the driveway, a sleek black Tesla, a pristine white Bentley, a midnight blue Mercedes, a silver Audi, a burgundy Lexus, and a charcoal gray BMW. Each vehicle represents automotive elegance and success beyond anything Dayron has ever seen up close. Each of these cars belongs to one of my investment partners, James explains as impeccably dressed individuals begin stepping out of their vehicles. When I told them about you, about what you did for Marcus and how you lost your job for it, they all insisted on meeting you personally. A distinguished black woman in her 50s emerges from the Bentley and approaches with a warm smile. You must be Dayron. I'm Dr. Angela Foster. I own a chain of wellness centers, and I've been waiting to meet the young man who chose kindness over job security. A silver-haired gentleman from the Mercedes extends his hand. Robert Chen, Real Estate Development. James tells me you have vision for serving both upscale clients and community members. I want to help make that vision a reality. One by one, the investors introduce themselves, successful entrepreneurs, community leaders, and philanthropists who are ready to back Dayron's dreams with both financial support and mentorship. Each of them cites his act of kindness as the reason they believe in his potential. Mr. Simmons stands frozen, watching as his former employee receives opportunities that exceed anything his restaurant could have ever offered. Without a word, he turns and walks back to his car, his shoulders slumped in defeat. As the group shares ideas and discusses plans for the community kitchen network, Dayron thinks about his mother's words, "Your kindness is your strength, baby. Don't ever let anyone tell you different." She was right. The very act that cost him his job has opened doors he never could have imagined. There's one more thing, James says as the evening light begins to fade. I want you to personally oversee the Atlanta Locations program to provide free meals for the homeless community. Marcus will be helping coordinate outreach efforts. Marcus steps forward from where he's been quietly observing, no longer the weathered man Dayron first met, but confident and purposeful. I told you I'd find a way to repay your kindness, he says with a grin. Sometimes the universe has bigger plans than we can see. As Dayron looks around at the 6 luxury cars, the enthusiastic investors, and his new opportunity to impact his community, he realizes that his simple act of buying lunch for someone in need has transformed not just his own life, but has set in motion a chain of events that will help countless others. His dreams of making a difference through food aren't just surviving, they're flourishing beyond his wildest imagination. And it all started with choosing compassion when no one was watching. The message is clear, kindness is never wasted. Sometimes it just takes time to see the incredible places it can lead us. So the next time you see someone in need, remember Dayron's story. A small act of kindness might just change everything, for them, for you, and for everyone whose lives you touch along the way.